Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Welcome to today's burst of innovation. This is to kickstart your week, give you a little edge to be able to think differently, to be able to work smarter, not harder, perform at your peak, have a stronger problem solving, creative problem solving, all of that good stuff. We want to go into our week with a new perspective and some new tools in our toolbox to make the ideas, the solutions, the problems that we solve go further, faster, make them better. So here we go. Today, I want to talk about why you should actually, wait for it, love your incremental ideas. I think we are told a huge myth, and that is that we should throw away our incremental ideas, that they're not worth anything, that we just go for the big disruptive breakthrough ideas. Am I right? How many times have you heard, think outside the box? We've got to be blue skies. We've got to be disruptive. We can't use the same ideas we've always used. How many times have we heard that? And hey, before I keep going, let me just remind, I know there's a lot of you new on. You are more than welcome. I've got the chat bar going. We are streaming live and we're on Zoom, but I've got it going in both places. So if you've got a thought, a question, a comment, I love to interact. This is a great place to do that. If you have a question that you want to ask me, or if you're like, oh, that really made me realize this, your brilliance helps the entire group. All right. So let's talk about incremental, why you should love them. Because what I want us to do is actually throw away that whole outside the box, disruptive blue skies. Here's what actually happens when we do that. We actually hinder our ability to innovate. We actually shut down ourselves. And if we're leading teams, we shut them down too. How many times have we assembled the team and said, hey, we need a breakthrough idea. We need a solution that's going to solve this problem that's like never before. We need to go after new markets, right? We do that to ourselves. The problem is we're actually shutting down innovation. Let me kind of show you in a graph what I mean, right? So here's our starting point. I'm going to show this to you. And this is breakthrough. And this is our starting point, okay? We have our starting point and we have breakthrough. Here's the thing, and I know you can see it by looking at my little drawing. There is a massive gap that we've got to cross over to get from our starting point to our breakthrough ideas. That gap is where we fall off. That gap is where we shut down ourselves and our teams, because we're asking them, when they've been taking one step, when we have been taking one step, to suddenly take 100. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all for breakthrough ideas. I'm all for those disruptive solutions that actually solve our problems in new and meaningful ways, for going after new markets. I'm all for finding new workflows that are totally different than what we've done in the past. But I want to give you a little bit of a different way to get there that involves loving your incremental ideas. I'm just going to use a brainstorm as my example, but anything applies here. This can be solo or with a team. So we go into a brainstorm and we say, hey, here's the problem we're trying to solve, or the idea, the opportunity we're going after. I want us to come up with ideas that take us way over here. And then what happens? People start with the incremental ideas. It's always what happens. Our brain goes to the obvious first. So we do that. But then what happens? We shut ourselves down. We go, well, that's incremental. That's obvious. We've thought of that before. That's not a big enough idea for me to pursue. So what do? We shut ourselves down. When we shut ourselves down at that level, it makes it very hard to leap forward from starting point to breakthrough. So here's a different way that I want you to think about this. This is actually an exercise that I love to do with clients. I'm going to share a story with you after I walk through it in a minute. So instead of saying, hey guys, here's our problem, or here's our opportunity, here's our starting point, what I actually want you to do, and say we want breakthrough, is I want you to, for yourself and for the people you lead, I want to say, hey, here's our problem, here's our starting point. What are all the ideas we have on the table? Let's just get them all out there, right? So we've got all these ideas out there. Whatever you're thinking right now, go. And what these are, I'm going to call these I, because these are incremental, right? They're the obvious. In fact, I'll name a few O for obvious. That's what happens. Those are the first ideas that we get. At our starting point, whoops, wrong side. Starting point, we get the incremental and the obvious. So instead of saying, no, guys, those aren't good enough, those will never do, we've thought of that before, and shutting ourselves and our innovative minds down, we're going to fall in love with those ideas. And we're going to use those ideas as springboards. Then we're going to create a bridge to breakthrough. So instead, here's what you're going to do. This is the little trick I learned that works so incredibly well, and our brains love it. And I'll talk about it in a minute. When you've got here's the problem I'm trying to solve, or here's the opportunity I want to go after, I want you to get out all those obvious and incremental ideas, all of them. Okay. Then here's what I want you to do. Instead of throwing those away and trying to go like this, right, around those ideas, that's what we tried to do in the past. We try to go around them. Instead, what I want you to do is I want you to innovate off of them. Take every obvious and incremental idea and make it more innovative. And then take those and make those. I'm going to show you my drawing in a more innovative. Before you know it, you've created a bridge to the breakthrough side that you're trying to get to. Because instead of throwing away those incremental ideas, which is also shutting our brains down and telling us we're not innovative enough, so the brain goes, all right, never mind then, creating that frustration, that stress of not being able to leap that chasm, we're building a bridge, one incremental idea at a time. And those incremental ideas, you'll see, will morph into really innovative, incredible ideas. So we're going to use our incremental ideas to build innovative. So instead of just brainstorming from your starting point all the way over to breakthrough, you're going to go starting point. Oh, I never get used to the fact that it's opposite on the camera. Starting point, you're going to get out all those incremental ideas, and then you're going to start the real brainstorming. This is where the real magic happens. I've seen it time and time again. So I was with a client this last week out in Miami. It was actually the Association of Builders and Construction. It was amazing. It was a wonderful group. And I was talking to this group of people after from this one company, a construction company on the East Coast. And the leader of the company said, yeah, we've got to figure out, given all the delays in labor, the supply shortages, we're having a hard time hiring, how we move forward. How do we serve our clients, given we've got all these challenges that we're dealing with? And the team at the table, somebody said something to the effect of, well, if we tell our clients, right, that'd be a first step, right? At least we keep them in the loop. Very obvious, very incremental. Am I right? So the leader said, yeah, but that's not good enough. We need something else. In that moment, everybody shut down. So of course, I couldn't help myself. I piped in. I said, hey, let's think about this a little bit differently. I totally hear what you're saying, that maybe we need more. But what if we took that idea of telling the client, being more transparent, and we made that more innovative? What if we just brainstormed off of that concept of kind of transparency and communication for a minute? Well, the group got super excited. People started piping in. Before you knew it, they had actually created a new project map and a dashboard that wouldn't just hopefully, because this was all kind of in the moment, hopefully help their clients stay informed, but also help them get ahead of the problems. Because somebody piped in and said, when we're telling clients about these problems about lumber prices and shortages and all this stuff, he said, you know what else we know? We know that this problem is going to cause this down the road. So we can actually get ahead of that and solve that problem before it happens versus waiting, which is what we're doing now. So do you see what happened? Instead of throwing away that initial idea of ink that was too incremental, I agree, but it's a beautiful idea that you can springboard off of and create that bridge over to breakthrough. All right, here's what I want to know. I want to know what your insight is from watching this 10-minute burst of innovation. How are you going to innovate and brainstorm and think differently? Put that in the chat bar in just a sentence or a phrase. Let me know, let the group know so that we can share with each other how you're going to fall in love with your incremental ideas or what aha you had coming out of this session. As you're typing that, I just want to remind you a couple things. One is we do these every week for free. I love them. My one request to you, the fee, the bridge toll, I guess, for joining me and for putting all this great content out for free. So if you wouldn't mind on LinkedIn, on Facebook, wherever you're watching, actually just, hey, putting a comment about what you got out of it or what you loved. It's great for other people to know as well. That's how we grow our community of everyday innovator. That's how we're the rising tide that lifts all boats. The second thing while you're typing, I just want to remind you is the wait list, not the actual magazine, but the wait list is open for the digital magazine. So I'm going to put that in the notes too. You can't actually get on yet. We only allow people in once a month, but you can get on the wait list so that you get notified. All right. So Kirby says the obvious, exclamation point, exclamation point. Yes. The obvious is actually a great springboard. So hopefully this came across of what I was trying to say in the beginning. The challenge we have or the mistake that we make is we throw away the obvious. We go, well, that's not what we're looking for. That's not good enough. That's not innovative enough. That might be true on the end, what we're going for, but when we throw those ideas away, we throw away nuggets of brilliance. We throw away nuggets of ideas that we could move forward if we just leverage them. And it makes the group feel and yourself feel so much more at ease, knowing that what you're putting out there isn't wrong. And I'm not saying every idea is right, but you can see how if I stand up in front of a room, because this is what I used to do. I'm just going to be transparent about it. When I was in the beginning of my career and I was all about breakthrough innovation, I'd get up in front of the room, the workshop that I was leading. We do these jam sessions all the time with our clients where we go in and we help them solve a problem or go after an opportunity. And we need to get to these really breakthrough ideas. We need to. The marketplace demands it. Our competition requires it. So we need it. But what happens is when we say, no incremental, no obvious, that's not good enough, throw away anything you've already thought about. First of all, your people and yourself have been thinking about these things. They're in the work. They're the ones with their sleeves rolled up and they're doing it, right? So you go to them and you say, well, those ideas aren't good enough. For throwing away everything you've been thinking about for the last 6 months. You're shutting their innovative mind down. You're shutting them down. You're actually elevating fear of saying something and it looking stupid or wrong and minimizing or decreasing their ability and their desire to innovate. It doesn't work. But when we actually leverage that incremental, we put that in as a stepping stone into our process, we get to incredible breakthrough ideas. This is why every time I lead a workshop, and I'm going to encourage you to do the same, I always make sure we get these ideas out on the table. And then in some way during the workshop, we come back to them. This can happen in a 30-minute brainstorm, by the way, a hallway conversation, or kind of some of the bigger workshops that I tend to lead, the jam sessions. So we get those on the table. They're always there, but we go back to them and like, what nuggets are here? How can I take this and innovate off of this to go bigger? And then we do other exercises where we go forward first and come back. Others where we leverage and talk about other innovative companies, what they do and how we borrow it. So there's a lot of different ways to tackle innovation. But my whole point in all this that I hope is coming across clear is don't throw away the obvious and the incremental. Fall in love with them. Leverage them. Those are your starting points for brainstorm, not your problem or the opportunity. It's the incremental and the obvious. All right, I got the chat bar open. What else? What are you learning? Emily says, don't stifle the obvious. Yeah, Emily, exactly. Stifle is a great word. Don't stifle the obvious. All right, Mike says, oh my gosh, I'm going to try this with my group. I have a brainstorm meeting today, and I tend to try to get them to leap too far too fast, and then I get annoyed. Yeah, right. Too far too fast, Mike. That's exactly right. We want to bring people there. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't stretch people and shoot for Mars and shoot for the heavens, and that is 100% a valid way to drive innovation. But if you find yourself with all this incremental stuff swirling around, or you find your team doing that, use it. Why wouldn't we use it? All right, Mary T says, inch by inch is a cinch. Oh, I like the alliteration, Mary T. Nice work. Awesome. Okay, let's see. Hold on. I got a few more comments here I want to make sure to read. Greg says, it's a great reminder that the small ideas I'm already thinking about are still valid. Yes, they are valid. They are incredibly valid, and they're incredible springboards. They may not be the answer, but they may be incredible springboards. And oh, by the way, I also find that sometimes in those incremental ideas are nuggets that are easy wins out of the gate that help you gain momentum. The other exercise that I love to do with people is this brainstorm exercise where I have people brainstorm on their own for like 10, 15 minutes, all the different ideas on ways to solve a problem or go after an opportunity. But they have to do one idea per sticky note and they have to do it for 10 minutes. They can't go check their phone, I don't know, go talk to a friend, whatever. The reason I love it is the brain starts with incremental. And the first ideas, if you look at them, are all incremental. This is me putting sticky notes down, by the way, are all incremental. And then over time, if you looked at them in sequential order, you see that the ones over here are way more disruptive and innovative, but they started here and their brain kept building and building and building and driving more innovation. We always go to the obvious first, but what I'm really saying here is that's okay. Yes, stifle is a good word. It just shuts people down, as Tamara has taught us. Yes, thank you, Kirby. Exactly. It does shut people down. That's what I'm saying. It's all about how do you, it's not that I don't want super disruptive, innovative, blue skies, out of the box ideas. But the truth is, we've got to leverage the obvious and the incremental to get there. And most people are too trained in doing their day-to-day and not being everyday innovators like you and me. and they need some push. And we throw away this obvious and this incremental ideas like they're worthless, but they're not. They're the best springboards, like I said, to building a bridge to get to those breakthrough ideas. Okay, so starting point, incremental and obvious, the bridge to breakthrough. I love innovating off of incremental ideas because it's amazing what you find. Don't make innovation so hard on yourself. When we try to leap that chasm of starting point to breakthrough, what happens? We launch, we get excited, and then we start to fall down because we can't get way over there, right? We need stepping stones. It's human nature. That's okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Like I said, hey, I love putting this content out for free. It makes me happy to know that you are driving innovation in your world, whatever that is, to get more success. My one request is that, hey, put a comment in the chat bar, whether that's on LinkedIn where you're watching or Facebook or whatever it is. Let people know what value you got out of it so that we can grow our everyday innovator community. I want tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of us across the globe driving innovation. We will be the rising tide that lifts all boats. And imagine for a moment if a million of us just ignited some innovation in our work and our lives. It would be pretty amazing, wouldn't it? You're very welcome. Thank you so much. I will see you next time.